Hello guys, we need to defeat Russia. To defeat Russia, we need a working strategy, and we have one in Ukraine. To paralyze their economy, destroy their war machine by targeting oil refineries. Last night, 2 more were neutralized in Saratov and Samara, big ones. But what actually proves this systemic, conscientious approach is the destruction of 3 pumping stations in Saratov and Volgograd regions that supplied oil to a pipeline leading to Novorossiysk. And you may recognize this name, the name of the Russian port, that is now also the headquarters of the leftovers of the Russian Black Sea Fleet. And you know why? Because they have to escape from the Ukrainian Sevastopol after our marine drones upgraded Russian warships to scrap metal on the bottom of the Black Sea. Something similar at a very high pace right now is happening to the Russian oil refining industry. And one of the largest producers, Transneft, now openly speaks about the need to mine to extract less oil because they literally have nowhere to refine it. Let's discuss how this strategy can save the world, make Europe and Ukraine safer and better place. Of course, by defeating and demilitarizing Russia. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see a vlog from The Hague with Putin in the court, subscribe. I'm sure it will happen sometime really soon, and please share these videos to protect your loved ones from the Russian toxic disinformation and lies. So I hope you're not tired from our oil refineries bingo and an extremely long course of the Russian geography, because 2 more Russian oil refineries joined the majority. At least the majority of the Russian oil refineries in the European part of the Federation, because it turned out they literally cannot protect anything on this part of Russia. They were not prepared for the failed blitzkrieg. This exhausting war can exhaust enormously large Russian Federation way faster than they expected to exhaust Ukraine. And also their air defense constantly fails, even after repeated visits of Ukrainian drones to this extremely important for the Russian army, for the Russian economy, sites like Saratov Samara oil refineries. And they are, because the one in Saratov produces 2.54% of oil, of all oil products for the Russian Federation, and in Samara it's even bigger, 3%. And I'm sure you understand, with all the global attention to explosions and fires on Russian oil refineries, with constantly growing gasoline crisis, with increasing prices that is the result of gasoline prices in Russia. Well, I mean, like, everybody's watching, Xi Jinping watching, North Korea watching. It's of course understandable that Putin and his mafia friends try to do everything to prevent similar strikes from happening, and they keep failing and failing. And what I love is that Ukrainian drone units develop more advanced technologies, smart, intelligent, taking into account the context and, you know, this complex process of the oil industry, starting from extraction and finishing with refining and export. So apart from destroying like more than 16 already refineries during less than 2 months, August and September, we see the strategy developing to pipelines and pumping stations. Pumping stations help move this bloody oil to the ports from which they can try and sell it or put it on the shadow fleet, another problem of the world, not just of Ukraine. So by paralyzing these pumping stations, we also paralyze Russia's ability to export, ability to transport the oil. And last night, 3 of such stations were targeted. Like, subscribe, share, this is super important. The easiest way to demonstrate your solidarity with Ukraine, but it's extremely effective and makes me super grateful. So we visited with our drones 3 pumping stations in Volgograd and Samara regions. I even put down the names of the stations. So number 1, Zenzivatka. Number 2, Sovkhoznaya 2. And number 3, Samara. These pumping stations, as you can guess, pump oil to the port of Novorossiysk. But what is also interesting, pumping stations, same as oil refineries, are made of very complex, very expensive, and very European and very American details. Russia invested billions of dollars in these constructions before the start of the full-scale invasion because they realized they would need more money. Russia is a resource country. They only sell what they get out of their land, exhausting it. And it was always a priority for the Kremlin. So they could not build these pumping stations, oil refineries from low-class Russian detail parts, and they imported a lot of things from the European Union, maybe, I don't know, from Japan, from the United States for sure. And now, because the sanctions are working, they cannot substitute it, they cannot maintain it, and they cannot repair pumping stations, they cannot repair oil refineries because they don't have access to the parts they need. I'm sure they also need like this classical maintenance that was provided by some EU or American companies, and that's over for Russia. That is why, once again, I'm very grateful when you remind your governments, your decision makers, how important it is to preserve the existing sanctions and to impose more sanctions on Russia. I was very saddened to learn about the relief of sanctions on Belavia, that is a Belarus aviation company, and I don't know why the White House decided to do it. It was just like a positive reaction to the release of some political prisoners in Belarus, but that's not a demonstration of any positive changes happening inside the country. It is still run by the oldest, I don't know if it's the correct word because I'm not about the age, but the longest ruling dictator in Europe, Lukashenko, more than 30 years. That's insane. And via Belavia, Russians can in future try and get the parts for their Aeroflot that was already collapsing because of Putin's failed blitzkrieg. So by sharing these videos, by reminding people about our fight, and by demonstrating people that the only way to lasting peace and security is the destruction of Russian war machine, you can safeguard the world. Because trust me, those Russian MiGs in the airspace of Estonia is not an accident, same as drones. And if you want to know more, watch my new video on the new channel where I explain a little bit more why Russia does it and what should we do as ordinary citizens who want to live in the normal world. And this normal world can be restored if justice is served to the Kremlin criminals. And I know you know it, but the world is so chaotic. The world is so unpredictable. We hear so many wrong things from the leaders of the democratic world that sometimes it's difficult to remain calm. And then I read about the destruction of more oil refineries, more pumping stations, more losses for the already collapsing Russian budget. And you know they have serious problems with their banking system, with prices, more products disappearing from the shelves. And I realized that we do have this historical chance to speed up the process of this final third dissolution of the Russian Empire. It's not a joke. First, at the beginning of the 20th century, the Russian Empire collapsed, but then it quickly regrouped into monstrous Soviet Union that had a very imperial character. Then again, because of its very illogical system, a lot of authoritarianism, a bad economy, exhausting wars, it collapsed in 1991. And what we observe now is the third, and I'm praying final, dissolution of this Kremlin project. Be it Empire, Soviet Union, Federation, it's all the same. Evil, aggressive, and totally, it cannot survive without countries like Ukraine. It cannot survive without enemies that it keeps inventing in the West, in the Mars, elsewhere. So people, we can do it. We are doing that. Our task is to spread the truth, to support Ukrainian fundraisers, and to stand united against the evil. We can do it. Thank you so much for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channel. Thank you so much for joining me on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, Discord. All the links that you need in the description of this video, same as the link to our merch shop that magically turns you into Ukrainian ambassadors. And you know we need that. And most importantly, thank you for being friends of Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!